A very warm welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Thank you for joining us live from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, gunmen attempt to disrupt the celebration of the 40th anniversary of priesthood of Bishop George Nko of the Kumbo Diocese in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. They were quickly pushed back by security and defense forces, and the gun battle sent shock and panic waves down the spines of attendants of that ceremony, including Northwest Governor Adolphe Lele-Lafrique. And also in this newscast, we shall talk about the new twist of the Anglophone crisis with the increasing use of explosive devices and sophisticated weapons by non-state armed groups in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. Once more, thank you for joining us on this edition of the news, and we're going to begin right away in Kumbo in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, where the mayor of the municipality is lamenting over the difficult, unstable and uncertain security atmosphere reigning in his municipality. Speaking to the governor of the northwest region, Adolphe Lele-Lafrique, and other top security officials of the region in a security meeting that pulled through last night, late into the night, the mayor indicated that 6 of the workers of the Council of Kumbo are in captivity. Details in this report by Mbu Stella.
Bui Division in general and Kumbo in particular has been described as one of the areas in the conflict-hit Northwest region that needs government's particular attention. The mayor, Venatius Mborong, was speaking during a security meeting at the Minepat Hall in Kumbo.
The separatists have made life unbearable to our population. As I speak, I have some of my workers in the bush that were taken just 4 days ago, 6 of them. And you can bear with me that living under this kind of circumstances is not easy. You cannot move out of town. You are moving somewhere, you look left, you look right. This kind of life is very, very unpleasant. And Your Excellency, we would like you and your team to look at us, turn your attention as always, as you have been doing. And we want you people to take additional time, put additional time on us. Because we are passing through difficulties.
The meeting, chaired by Northwest Governor Adolphe Lele-Lafrique, was to assess the security situation ahead of a mass in celebration of the 40th anniversary of the priesthood of His Lordship George Nko, Bishop of Kumbo. In his response to the mayor, Adolphe Lele-Lafrique said that measures he cannot disclose are being taken to ensure the security of the population and their goods in the entire Northwest region.
Globally speaking, the security are mastering the situation in all the subdivision of Bui Division.
Kumbo has been one of the red zones in the Northwest region since arms were picked up. This has chased the active population out of the area. Social life in Kumbo is not only affected by the uncertain security climate, but also the lack of basic amenities like water and electricity, to name but these. The municipality's head says they are working to having the economic and social life of Kumbo return to normal.
And today was a hot and tense day in the locality of Kumbo, with panic, fear, commotion taking over the ceremonial ground where Bishop George Nko of the Kumbo Diocese and his peers, and of course Christians, Catholic faithfuls and other persons within the community and authorities, including the Northwest Governor Adolphe Lele-L'Afrique, were celebrating the 40th anniversary of priesthood of the Bishop of Kumbo, as gunmen stormed the area and attempted to disrupt that ceremony, but they were quickly pushed back by security and defense forces. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
Planted in the house of the Lord, they will flourish in the courts of our God.
At the ceremonial ground of the St. Augustine College, saw in Kumbu, Bui division of the Northwest region, all started and is unfolding normally for the Ruby Jubilee of His Lordship, Bishop George Nko, Bishop of the Kumbu Diocese. Few hours later, everybody is on the floor with loud sounds of gunshots echoed across the town of Kumbu from far and closer to the ceremonial ground. Men and women, boys and girls are frightened, lying low to escape from gunshots and bullets.
We hide our gunshot. Play our part.
Why?
We don't know.
The only thing is that we need peace in our land. That's the only thing. Good outside, all are human beings. Many are dying, we don't want.
Many are dying.
Yes, many are dying. Both the armed boys, the military, and all are delivered by women.
All are delivered by women. We are crying for our land. And we are also crying for our children. All are delivered by women. A woman can never leave a child. That this child is not my child.
Gunshots in the heart of a popular religious event with a heavy military presence and the security assurances of the governor on the eve of the event. The governor is also aware that normalcy is yet to fully return to the division and the region, and goes further to promise to turn all stones.
The government is determined to bring long-lasting peace in this division and the whole region. No stone will be left untouched to bring back normalcy to Bui division, foremost to the city of Kumbu. The pacification effort of the administrative authorities, the operation to secure the division and the whole region that I have long started will continue and will be increased to face the present situation.
The ceremony before the unwanted interruption was all in honor of the 40 years priesthood services of Bishop George Nko, described by the Archbishop of Bamenda as a shepherd standing by his sheep in a difficult environment and ready to die for his flock.
The bishop is exercising his ministry, especially as chief shepherd of the Diocese of Kumbu in these difficult times. And we are witnesses to the fact that he is close to his sheep, he is standing near to his sheep, and he is ready to die for his sheep. And this is a very, very big testimony to the gospel message which is preaching to the people and which is giving out to the world.
Bishop George Nko uses his Ruby Jubilee to preach truth, humility, forgiveness and reconciliation.
Jesus Christ tells us he's the way, the truth and the life. And we need to be able to face the truth as it is. We need to be able to look at each other and call you out. This is my brother, this is my sister. My celebration in the heart of this reassures me that it is possible. I know that it is possible if only we can break down the pride and uplift love for truth, for justice, and for care for one another.
26th April 1981, 26th April 2021, 40 years of the priestly ordination of His Lordship, Bishop George Nko, Bishop of Kumbu.
After that attempted attack by civilians or armed men in Kumbu, stopped by security and defense forces, explosive devices came into play, and explosive devices exploded at different places within the locality, as our correspondent Boo Stella tells us, and the situation remains quite unstable in that part of the country. And a political analyst, Adrien Ebako, thinks that this is the result of government's failure to use appropriate measures to solve the root causes of the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Take a listen to him.
Before, the government knew that they were going to crack them down using their military, but that method has not worked. And every time the government has tried to using a wrong procedure, it has only given the boys a room to evolve. It is we, the Cameroonians, that have failed to manage this crisis when it began. We felt that we can always use military in response and to achieve what the central government in this country wants, but it has not been the case. And I would still say that the government has been very insensitive, knowing all what has been happening around Africa, especially in neighboring Nigeria, Chad, as we saw, that insecurity has only been increasing in Africa. And when this issue began in 2016, the government would have known and would have quelled down this issue before it evolved to where we are today. So these boys, per my analysis, I've always made, the crisis is only going to increase and the insecurities are only going to increase. It will never curb down if the government do not directly address the root core of this problem and get into an all-inclusive dialogue to resolve the problem genuinely for the interest of the people of this nation.
And extending his analysis across the African continent, Adrien Ebako thinks that many of the African leaders, especially presidents of countries afflicted by security crises, have been using the wrong methods, the wrong approach to solve the security problems, which have escalated to a level where they are unable, some of them are unable to handle. Listen to him.
What we find happening today in Africa, it is absolutely engineered and sponsored by many of the Western nations that have interest in Africa. But one of the things that the African governments and administrators have always failed to do is addressing issues at the initial stage. They have failed to respond when people began agitating. And because of that failure and delay and lack of time management, that has evolved into something else that we are seeing today. Today now we are talking of monsters. Today now we are talking of insecurity that our governments cannot manage. A good example will be Nigeria. Today the president of Nigeria is calling in the United States to help him build stability and security in Nigeria. A giant nation, Nigeria, calling on the United States for security in his nation. That is just to tell you that Buhari in another way is telling us that he can no longer manage the insecurity in his country, and the government has failed to manage the insecurity. So this is just to tell you that what Nigeria is going through is what we see today in Chad, is what today we see in Central Africa, is what today we see in Mali, in Ivory Coast, and many, Ethiopia and many other places, Cameroon, we are talking today.
Adrien Ebako, political analyst, speaking there to Njombe in the Mongo Division, littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon. 2 persons have died in a road accident on National Road number 3. A motorcycle rider who came into a collision with another vehicle in that accident. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
Underneath this heavy-duty truck is the lifeless body of a pregnant woman who was on board a motorcycle. The motorcycle rider and the woman were knocked down by this truck along the National Road number 3, precisely in Pinja in the Mongo Division, littoral region. The bike rider died few hours after he was admitted in the hospital. According to residents, the deceased were returning from a wake-keep. The driver, who was in a drunk state, was driving on top speed. The driver of the truck tried dodging the motorcycle, but it was already too late. That is the lifeless body of the woman lying under the truck. When the lady was about getting on the bike, I heard her sisters warning her that the bike rider is drunk and that she should take another bike. Few minutes later, we were told that she was involved in a road accident. The accident occurred on Friday at 2 a.m. and it was only at 8 a.m. that the stuck corpse was removed under the truck. Few minutes after the incident occurred, we informed security officers when they arrived here at 8 a.m. It was at that time that they used a caterpillar to lift the truck and a lifeless body was retrieved. Another accident which has left family members, friends and onlookers in shock.
That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. Today we are receiving one of the special advisors of the national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, Mutaga Silvanus. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Babula Jonathan, for inviting me once more on this prestigious platform in the Talking Point. I wish to use this opportunity to greet all the inmates of the Kondengi Central Prison, the principal prison of Yaoundé, the Boya Central Prison, the Bamida Central Prison, and those of the Nube Central Prison.
And also joining us from the Accra, Ghana, is Dr. Donwi Peter. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Pan-African Institute for Development. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Protection of violence.
All right, we begin with you, Mutaga Silvanus. Today was a difficult, a tense, and a very hot day in Kumbu, in the Bui division. When you look at what happened today during the celebration of the 40th anniversary of priesthood of His Lordship George Nko, Bishop of Kumbu, what's your take about the crisis that has been going on for about 4 years, close to 5 years today?
Mr. Babula Jonathan, this is part of the recurrent attacks that houses of worship have been suffering from in recent times. We can imagine that in 2011, that was on the 16th of July in 2011, the Jandala extremist Islamic group in northeastern Iran killed about 17 and injured 270. And of recent, the same thing happened in Burkina Faso, where we saw about 24 men, worshippers, Christians were killed and priests were injured. So it is desecrating the place of worship, because the Bible says, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. You know, the place of worship is a place that is reserved for people that go there to intercede. They lift up prayers on behalf of the suffering people. They lift up prayer for God to intervene in issues that are affecting the society. So if people cannot respect such places, such gathering, a holy gathering, I think that it's not something we would want to accept. But like it is at this particular juncture, if you look at what is happening in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon, you understand that it is separatist extremism. It is going to what we call separatist extremism. You find that the people, the separatists, have been carrying out actions of acts of atrocity of recent, and this is in retaliation to the maybe the extremely military brutality that has been observed on daily basis. But going to attack a gathering of holy men, it's like it's commonly said, whoever the gods want to strike, the first make mad. I think these people who did such a thing, they are calling on the wrath of God upon their lives. So
the attack of today took place on the campus of St. Augustine College, where the celebration of the 40th priesthood anniversary of Bishop George Nko was taking place. And despite the military presence, despite the heavy security deployment, the armed men still succeeded to launch an attack, and they were quickly pushed back by the security and defense forces. When you look at this persistence of the non-state armed groups coming to attack, even in an area heavily guarded, in an area with heavy military presence, what do you think about the unfolding of things over there?
You know that as the government in place keeps on pretending as if nothing is going on in the two English-speaking region, telling us, deceiving the international community that the situation is under control. These guys keep on developing new skills every day. And to be very frank, in the days ahead, I'm quite sure that the military will not be able to stand to face these guys anymore, because they are no longer afraid of the military. I think it is out of desperation, you know, when people find that the only way they can express themselves is through violence. You find that they will be forced to use violence means maybe to make themselves hurt. We know quite well that most of them are not happy with the so much glamour decentralization which is in place. We heard of recent people like Senator Belamoki, who were complaining that decentralization is not satisfying the aspirations of the Anglophone, and that most of the texts that came in were still in French and other like. So you find that this is frustration, and the government in place, if there is anything that should call their attention, I think the mere fact that this attack has been carried out on men of God. We know the contribution of the Catholic Church since the days of the late Cardinal in seeing that the Anglophone crisis be given due consideration at the Parliament or be resolved. So the separatists have so much respect for the Catholic Church. For the mere fact that the Cardinal is no more, they seem to be thinking that the Catholic Church will forget their plight. So to me, I think that it is a way of expression to tell the Catholic Church that the Cardinal is no more, don't forget of the plights of the Anglophones, but it is a very bad way, the channel which they use to attack on men of God is not the best way. I think they have spokesperson for the Anglophones, whom I don't really know their names, but I know most often we can see them manifest in social media and other like. They could call the Catholic Church in a more formal way to keep on pressing hard for a national, inclusive, meaningful dialogue rather than... It
is, however, not clear as of now if the attackers were targeting the church, the men of God, the faithfuls who were there, or the administrative authorities who were in place, the governor and his état-major. It is not clear as of now, but we do know that the attackers before that kidnapped some workers of the Kumbu Council, not necessarily those who attacked today, but some other persons identified or attributed, linked to the non-state armed groups, said to have kidnapped over 6 workers of the Kumbu Council. The mayor was lamenting over the unstable security situation in his area of command during a security meeting last night.
Yes, Mr. Babala Jonathan, you just said that maybe these separatists had to attack the gathering of Christians because they were administrative officials there. They were. No,
I said it's not clear if they were targeting the men of God,
whether they were targeting
the administrative officials who were there.
Whether they had any grievances against the administrative officials or the military. It is commonly said in Africa that if you cannot eat the yam because the yam is bad, you will eat the yam because the oil is good. The mere fact that men of God were present at that particular venue would have been enough reason for these guys to understand that that is a no-go area. They were supposed to allow them perform whatsoever they had there and they live peacefully, because those are the same people that will be praying for the security of those who are still alive. There is something we need to understand, that man proposes and God disposes. Those who are vying for separation, I think they should understand that separation can never occur if God does not approve of it.
It can never occur if God does not approve of it. Now, let's go to Accra, Ghana, where we have Dr. Ndonwi Peter, CEO of the Pan-African Institute for Development, on the line. What do you think about the attack today, the attempt by some gunmen to disrupt the celebration of the 40th priesthood anniversary of Bishop George Ko in Kumbu today?
Well, good evening. It's really a pity for me to learn about such an attack. But however, it is something that we should understand that Cameroon now is in a very complex type of crisis, that we actually have to sit down together as brothers and sisters, as Cameroonians, to look at the possibilities of coming out of this type of crisis. Because normally the place of worship is where I think in times of war, people need to go there and go and hide in hospitals, the churches, and so on. But if people turn their guns and so on the places of worship and so on, where people are supposed to hide, it's not going to be very fair. Because if you look at what happened in Rwanda during the genocide, which actually all of us are aware of the fact that most of the killings were in the churches, we don't want to see such things happen in Cameroon. So my appeal is for those who are actually in support of the in control of these boys and so on, to let them understand that in times of war, there are areas that you don't even supposed to go there, especially schools, churches, hospitals, and so on and so forth. Because that is where I think when people are running away from this war, the non-combatants, they're supposed to go and hide. But if you go there, especially during such service, it's completely not acceptable. And I think they should be able to think twice. Because normally such things, and as we all know, it can constitute what people sometimes refer to as war crimes. Because if you go into those areas to kill or to do something and actually you kill, I don't think you will ever go free. So these are certain things that the leaders or whoever are actually controlling the boys on the ground should let them understand that they shouldn't even dare to go to where the church is, where schools are, where hospitals are, and so on, because it's completely wrong. Then, when we look at the international humanitarian law, that does not permit and does not allow.
Incident about 5 days ago, some workers of the Kumbu Council were kidnapped, and the mayor of the Kumbu Council was highlighting this during a security meeting last night and talking about the unstable security situation in his municipality. What's your take on this?
I think normally if you look at, I've been in Cameroon, I just came back from Cameroon of recent. I've been going between Northwest and Southwest and trying to talk to them about the necessity for peace. And normally peace is the most important thing, because even if you look at the days of Jesus Christ, after his resurrection, he came to his disciples and said, peace be with you. Peace is very important. Because when you have peace, you'll be able to sit down and talk. Although some people are saying that justice comes first, but I think that peace should be first. Because if you don't have that peace, you will not be able to sit on the table to be talking justice and so on and so forth. So we are actually looking at, when you see council workers and so on, there are a lot of people who have been kidnapped in Cameroon. I'm aware of that. And it's something that we are trying to come up with a conference in Ghana here, where we think we're talking to the various parties, the various factions and so on, that they should come, let's sit as brothers and sisters and look at our faces and be able to look for a possible solution out of the crisis, because we best know these problems, we know our coping strategies, and we exactly know how we can solve it. And although some people are they keep telling me that, oh, they need this and that white man to come, I look at it that it's not correct, because, well, it may be correct to them, but I think that the issue in Cameroon is for us to actually sit down as Cameroonians, as brothers and sisters, and look for the best way out of the crisis. We understand that people may be angry, people may not be happy with this and that. If you are reading on social media, you see people condemning each and every one. Of recent, you look at how people are talking about our leaders, like the late you will not be quite happy. But you start asking yourself, why are people talking like this? Because people, when you're drunk, they don't just have to now become so violent to an extent that you will not be controlled. Please, I am appealing to all these brothers and sisters who are in the bushes or whatever, that they should come out. Let them come and let us sit down together and talk peace. And when there is peace, many things will dialogue.
Come back to you in a short while. Mutaga Silvanus, what do you think about the new twist of the crisis with the increasing use of explosive devices? Some of the devices exploded today in Kumbu. And what do you think about this aspect and the increasing use of sophisticated weapons? When you hear people talking about M15 guns being used there and other sophisticated weapons, what can explain this move? We were expecting, or many are expecting, a move backward or towards the direction of peace, but rather we are seeing a move into sophisticated weapons, explosive devices being used here and there.
Mr. Babola Jonathan, as the days are going by, as the government keeps on delaying in providing a lasting solution to the plights of the Anglophone, you find that the separatists become more professional. They say, as the bird has learned to fly without perching, man will learn to fly, to shoot also without missing. So you find that these boys, they are developing new skills every day on how to manipulate weapons, and most of them are buying more sophisticated technology. Don't forget that they also go online. They could be having research on, carrying research on how to manufacture explosive. It wasn't like that in 2016. They hadn't any idea on that. As the days are going by, they resort to that, and it is regrettable that we are at that particular juncture. And I think that this is a wake-up call. If they can start manufacturing things that can explode 100 meters, 300 meters, don't forget that it may go to an extent that they will go in manufacturing, why not ballistic missiles. So the government in place has to be very careful. I think this is a wake-up call for all political actors, stakeholders of this nation, to keep on mounting pressure on the regime in place for a national inclusive dialogue. Remember, prior to the so-called Grand National Dialogue that just ended, most of us militants of the CRM, especially Professor Maurice Kamto, said that such a dialogue would not satisfy the aspirations of the Anglophones. It would not put an end to the war going on, because how could a dialogue be going on whereas the leaders of the movement of the Republic of Ambazonia, I'm talking of the like of Seseko Ayuktabe, Mancho BBC, Ngalim Felix Penterens, you have the rest, Dick Intasam, who are still imprisoned, were still left behind there. The people that were brought at the table of dialogue were just those who went there to listen, or maybe if they had to say, they would just pick things that would not be taken into action. We are looking at the issue of decentralization today. They told that decentralization came after the Grand National Dialogue, but you find out that it seemed as if that Grand National Dialogue was just a forum for noise making, because the real action is what is happening in place. The decentralization is not working. The senators, especially top officials of the CPDM, are complaining. It is a confession that they are regretting the holding of the National Dialogue, that the National Dialogue was a real fiasco, and that it does not seem to be satisfying the aspirations of the Anglophone. So it's a wake-up call. They are calling for another dialogue, and consequently asking the regime in place to get the real actors to sit at the table of dialogue. And I want to thank Senator Mbelamoki for coming up with such a confession. You know, in politics, words hide words. So if a man of his caliber will tell that he's not satisfied with the way decentralization is happening, you understand that it is a way of confessing, regretting that, oh, if I knew, I would not have been part of the national dialogue, because this dialogue is not yielding fruit, and history will hold us responsible as part of those who went and sat on at a table, use the taxpayers' money.
However, those who are close to the head of state or the CPDM will tell you that it is yielding fruits because of the institutions that have been put in place and some progress that is being made at that level concerning the functioning or the implementation of the new decentralization code. Now, Dr. Ndonwi Peter, what do you think is provoking the switch to explosive devices and more sophisticated weapons by non-state armed groups in those two regions, the northwest and southwest regions?
Yeah, if you look at it, what is provoking is that I think it's out of frustration. They themselves it's out of frustration. They certainly really that people they should sit on the table and talk. I've been talking with so many of them out here in diaspora, even some of them, and those in prison. I've been talking with them, talking with those who are some of the boys in the bushes and so on. And it's out of frustration, obviously. And you know, when people become frustrated, they tend to behave the way they behave. But that's why I'm calling for caution that if you are even frustrated, please, there's a way of going out of your frustration rather than using the barrel of the gun. You can actually get to your brother and say, this is it, this is what is it. So how can we actually solve this problem? And that is the reason why we are trying to come up with, we are actually working hard to come up with an international conference on peace and security in Cameroon, in Ghana, where we have already been talking with the various key stakeholders and the various parties concerned. And we're just working now on the last part of the arrangements to ensure that Anglophones, our brothers and sisters, should come and let us sit together as brothers and sisters here in Ghana and talk and look at our faces and see how can we come out of this situation? How can we be able to solve this problem without the barrel of the gun? How can we be able to make sure that our objectives, the objectives that people are actually asking, should be achieved using diplomacy, using sitting on the table with our country, with our state, with the parties or with the various government institutions, and we talk, because that's the best way out. Because normally, if people don't sit and talk, things go out the way it is. When I'm so saddened that people are explosive and so on, is now killing here and there. I am not in support of the killing of anybody. And normally, I can't create anybody on earth. And normally, I just support the killing of our brother. When I see regular army personnel being killed, when I see this and that being killed, it's not going to help us at all, because I keep on saying that we remain brothers and sisters. And let us look at how we should be able to solve this problem.
And you are inviting Cameroonians out of Cameroon to solve the problem. Why the choice of Ghana? Why out of Cameroon?
You know, normally, you know, in a conflict-prone area like Cameroon, if you really want to amicably solve the crisis, you should take it out of the country. If you look at conflict resolution and peace management, you understand that if we get out of Ghana, it will be safer. Like we have been talking to some of the leaders out there, the leaders of the boys out here in diaspora. Some of them didn't come to the Grand National Dialogue because they were afraid of their security. And we believe that here in Ghana, they will be able to come and will be well protected, and people will be free to talk. And we will be able to discuss as brothers and sisters and look into our faces and see exactly how we can come out of this. And then we try to see how we can co-opt among the various different parties and put in place people who will be able now to talk in terms of if there's that necessity for dialogue. It should not be the 1,001 fractions that we are seeing here and there, because with the 1,001 fractions, the government finds it very difficult to know with whom am I going to talk with. And these are some of the things that people want to position themselves, but at the detriment of our own people. And that is why we say that people, they should come here and let us be able to talk as one.
Mutaga Silvanos, do you think that a problem in Cameroon will find solutions out of the country, in Ghana?
I think Ghana may present a neutral ground for the participant in a dialogue to sit and discuss freely. You know that we are in a country in which the least gathering that does not seem to be such a gathering of singing praises to the CPDM regime will be dispersed. So I think Doctor might have chosen Ghana because he thinks that there they would have that tranquility. But this solution, especially for the Anglophone crisis, will come from home. Because those who are fighting the real war are those who are at ground zero. And if there is any dialogue in the Northwest and Southwest region, if there is any dialogue that would have to put an end to that war, the boys in the bushes, those in the remote areas, those who are in the carriers of the arms and all the like would have to be called. And this is the work of their leaders. Right. I said in one of my interviews on a TV channel that there are only 2 people in this country that can put an end to that war. Mr. Biya can call his soldiers, tell them to go back to the barrack, and Mr. Ayuk Tabe, who is in the prison, if he's in his free mind, he can tell these boys, the boys in the bushes, I mean, that drop your arms and let's see how we can put an end to this thing. Because
even though the situation seems to have gone out of his hand with the different factions, with Dr. Sako leading here and there and so on, but you think that he can bring in a serious influence on the non-state armed groups to drop their guns and come out of the bushes? Thank you very much, Mutaka Silvanus. You are one of the special advisors of the national president of the CRM political party, Professor Maurice Kamto. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I think it's an honor for me coming here every time you give me that opportunity to talk out to Cameroonians, and especially to tell them that peace is one of the most valuable things we should cherish, and that if there is any way we can fight for it, let us not relent.
We should fight for it. President Paul Biya said we should be hungry for peace. We should be hungry and thirsty for peace. Thank you very much, Dr. Ndonwi Peter, CEO of Pan-African Institute for Development, who was with us live from Accra, Ghana. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Have a nice weekend in the company of our programs. Equinoxe, last edition for this week, comes up next.